There's a trick to colour that elevates even beginner watercolour paintings. It has nothing to do with colour theory, and colour mixing is not allowed. Let me show you. Colour can be one of the things that inspires us to paint in the first place. For instance, let's say we're inspired by some gorgeous trees, maybe in real life, or perhaps a reference photo that we've come across. For now, and just for fun, let's draw a tree from imagination and see what we can do with it. So the first step is to choose the colours. A lovely green for the leafy section, and it is great fun to press these juicy brush strokes into the textured paper. I'll choose a nice rich dark brown for the trunk and also put in a little hint of grass on the ground where the trunk ends. Now, splashing your colourful brush onto the page is always fun, but at about this point, you can end up feeling a little bit disappointed because instead of the tree that we were inspired by, we've got more of, I guess, a cute symbol of what we were looking at, a little bit flat, kind of cartoonish feeling, and it's making us feel like total beginners. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a beginner, I'm just saying, but we're probably a bit disappointed that the tree we painted is not giving us the feeling we had when we saw the tree that inspired us. So next we try and figure out what went wrong. Maybe we chose the wrong green. So a trip to the art store perhaps to get a better green. Well, that might be fun, and there is a world of wonderful green watercolour paint out there, but you really don't need all those colours, and they're not going to solve this problem, I don't think. So is it that we need to know about colour theory so we can mix any colour we require? I actually don't think it's that either. Let's look at those trees again. They are a wonderful green, but we're never going to mix that colour because it's not one colour. It's lots of colours. What we respond to is really the light. The way we see light is actually through colour variation. Now, I know you're probably savvy enough to know it's not just colour. It's what we call value. That's the lights and darks. But value is a whole separate video discussion, I think. So today, let's just stick to colour. But what we can take from this is that we don't just need green. We need light and dark greens. So let's not paint a tree with just one green. And I'm saying tree because that's what I happen to be painting today, but this obviously applies to every subject you could think of. To give a more lively representation of any subject, I try and use at least 2 versions of the local colour, and really I'd aim for 3, a light, a medium, and a dark version of each colour. I'm imagining that the light is shining from the top left-hand side of my little image here. So I'm going to put the lightest green that I've got in those sides, and I'm going to put the darkest green I've got on the opposite sides. And I'm just making this up. I'm choosing little clumps of the groupings that the leaves make, and I'm choosing to imagine where they might be forming and placing in big juicy brush marks of my lovely darkest dark green. I also have a colour called sap green, which I think is a nice in-between for the light and dark that I've already got here. And I'll use that for the rest of the leafy sections that I'm wanting to add. I'm doing my best not to do too much mixing with my brush. One of the beautiful things about watercolour is that when we place these different colours down next to each other, they blend all by themselves if the paint is still damp. That's important, and we'll come back to that in a moment. I chose 3 greens to put in my leafy section. What happens if I just use 2 colours to paint the trunk? I've got a lighter brown colour. This is raw sienna, and I'm going to put that in on the left-hand side where I decided the light would be coming from. And I've got a rich dark brown, the one I used before. I'm going to use that for the darker side to show the shadowy side of the trunk. And again, where those 2 damp edges meet, the watercolour is going to decide how to make those blends all by itself. I think our tree that uses multiple colours is a much more lively version than the first one. We've definitely got some improvement here, but I think we can do even better. For a richer, more interesting effect, let's try being braver with our colour choices. The main local colour for the leafy section is green, but if we look at those reference trees again, we'll see that the sunlight leaves are more like a golden yellow, and the dark shadowy sections are maybe a deep blue, and sometimes a bit more muted in the shadowy sections. You might even see a little bit of purple in there. This sort of bold colour choice is really going to bring the painting to life, and it's much more fun for the painter too. So the mixing secret is to use more colours and not mix them. When I say don't mix them, I mean don't mix them on the palette to a uniform colour. That's the sort of thing you tend to do when you come from painting in oils and acrylics, I think. But if you do it in watercolour, you can really miss out on one of the most beautiful qualities of this paint that is unique to the medium. The random blends create a much better facsimile of the multiple colours that we see in the leaves of the real tree than we could do with our brushes. When we look at the leaves of trees in real life, there is so much nuance to the colours that we are seeing. There is an almost infinite number of tiny variations in the colour. And if we let our watercolour alone and put down our damp brush marks next to each other, the watercolour will create pretty much the same thing. And it's going to be slightly different depending on the type of paper that you use and the amount of water, the ratio of pigment to water that you've got on your brush is all going to really have an influence on how much those colors move and blend with each other. And they're going to do it slightly differently in slightly different parts of the painting. It's such a wonderful thing to watch, so such fun for the painter. And I think it gives the best effects, just watching these pigments push across and being patient, because sometimes you put down your mark and it doesn't look like it's doing anything, but give it a few moments and it will constantly change as those pigments slowly disperse across the page and settle. I chose this rich, deep indigo colour to be the shadow colour in my leaf section. And the blue is an obvious choice when you're thinking of greens to create a darker green. But I think it's actually also going to be a very good choice to use as the dark colour in the trunk. Remember last time we painted the trunk, we only had two colours, but there's also a lovely harmony you get from using the same dark colour across all the different sections of your subject. So I'm going to use my raw sienna, my Van Dyke brown, which was my rich dark brown, and then use the rich dark indigo to be the shadow color down the side of the trunk too. Because watercolor paints move into the damp areas, the colors next to each other merge. And different color pigments have slightly different properties. So some tend to be what I call bossier than others and rush across the damp section. Others are a bit more subtle. This creates an unpredictability, but I would prefer to think of it here as a randomness. It's just the sort of randomness that you see in nature, which is actually quite hard to paint intentionally. We humans have a tendency to line things up in neat little rows, and that's not usually the way it works in nature. So it's much better and much easier to let watercolor take care of your edges for you. In fact, edges are such an important part of watercolor painting. They can make a huge difference to your results. This video shows you exactly what I mean about that.